Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the Path of Exile 2 reveal that they just did. They did a huge amount of reveals, and the patch notes were incredibly long, with even a lot of stuff missing. It was a very long presentation, followed by a Q&A. So I'm not going to go over all the changes to the game in this video. That would be a Herculean task that I'm unwilling to embark on just this time. But I will be talking about the changes to the stuff that I'm mostly interested in. If you've followed my channel for Path of Exile 2, these fair few videos I've made on the game, I enjoy playing the monk, specifically the quarterstaff skills. So I'm going to go over in this video how any of the changes affect that. So let's come on into here. I do have a nice list. So the first things that are going to massively affect pretty much every build, but the biggest effect on the quarterstaff stuff is going to be the support gem overhaul. If you don't know, what they've done is they've made it so you can have multiple of any support gem on any skill. So there are a few skills where this kind of stands out for monk in general, for quarterstaff. Martial tempo, 25% more attack speed, just feels great. So this is going to make a lot more of your skills feel good. Perpetual charge if you're playing like a multi-spender setup, let's call it, if you want to use Falling Thunder and Flicker Strike. I know I enjoyed a lot of fun doing that in the past. So this kind of amplifies that kind of stuff. Getting increased AoE from magnified effect on multiple skill gems is going to be great for clear. Inspiration to solve mana costs. Impetus to kind of get more invocation stuff going. There are a lot of cool outcomes for this. And they also added 40 new what are called Lineage Supports. We didn't really see many of those, but there are some. Maybe I can get the images for you on screen. There will be that have been shown. There's one that gives like +1 skill level and also 10% quality. And if you don't know, Flicker Strike actually gains chance to not remove charges based on its quality. So what you can get here is you can get 20 from this, then you can get another 10, so you go up to 30. Then you have Perpetual Charge, so you get up to 65. You could even go, of course, Gemling Legionnaire to get up to like 85 with the like the body armor gems as well, runes they're called. You can get up to an extremely high amount of chance not to consume your charges whilst Flicker Striking, and of course Falling Thunder as well. But Flicker Strike, the big probably beneficiary of all the quality stacking out of the two, although both, as I said, very, very good. So some really cool new stuff there. Also for monk, in the monk area, you've got 2 new keystones. The most exciting one, and the one that I think people are going to be looking at the most, is going to be the Hollow Palm keystone. If you're familiar with Hollow Palm in Path of Exile 1, well, the name kind of suggests what it's about. It's about having hands-free, nothing in your hands. You are unarmed, no weapon equipped. And the way that it's scaling in Path of Exile 2 is actually how the Invoker is scaling some of its stuff already, right? Having a lot of evasion and energy shield on your armor. But this is for all your pieces of armor. So your hat, your body armor, your shoes, and your gloves. The more evasion and energy shield, the better. You can see it's 1% more attack speed per 25 evasion on any of those 4 things, and 0.1% base crit chance per 10 energy shield on those 4 things as well. Now I get to go to the liberty of finding a build that kind of took it way further than I did last patch. I ended up jumping off ship a few weeks in, just because I didn't really like the towers and all that. Well, there's no need to get into any of that in this video. But this person took the build extremely far, and I went through and kind of calced what he would be getting based on the values that he had. Sorry, they. Could be a woman, you never know. They would be getting 15% base crit and 70% more attack speed from the amount of evasion and energy shield that they have on their character's gear. You also get an additional 5 base crit now for unarmed attacks. I mean, if this works, then this would obviously go up to 20% base crit, which is a huge amount. But you have to consider, like, if we look at this person's weapon, they have 15% base crit already from the weapon, 1.4 attack speed, but then all the other stuff as well, right? All the flat damage, all the increased damage, the crit damage bonus, which is multiplicative, and then the 12% damage is extra of all elements. These were new runes added if you didn't play up to this point last league. These are new. So yeah, you are obviously losing quite a lot. So we're going to have to wait and see. Right now, with what we know and what we can see, I'd say that's not that good. Yeah, you do get physical damage based on the gem level as well. Obviously, if that's extremely high, then we're off. If it's not extremely high and it's kind of competitive with what you would get from a weapon in general, then we're going to need some other pretty juicy unarmed support, whether that's through support gems or through some of the additional clusters that they add to the tree. Yeah, but I'm very excited to check this out. More monk stuff, more quarterstaff stuff. I'm very excited for it, as I just love the class. It's just so fun to play, in my opinion. And getting this opportunity to do unarmed, It's great, but there is another thing that they changed as well, and that is that they removed the animation for weapon swapping, which is a phenomenal change again for quarterstaff skills, because a lot of them, specifically Falling Thunder, you want things on Falling Thunder that are going to scale like projectiles and stuff, right? But that stuff isn't necessarily going to affect your Ice Strike or your Tempest Flurry. So now you can have a weapon swap. You would have to, of course, have 2 weapons, which is the annoying part. But let's say we're in the end game, and it doesn't have to be. You could have another weapon that maybe has like attack speed and gem levels with your other good damage and modifiers, and then you could spec into things like Trick Shot. You could even have things like First Approach that give you more crit and damage against enemies that are full life, which is a very good affix for Falling Thunder because it's kind of just going off and off screen and everything. And the same could be said for Flicker. Like having that immediate weapon swap that you don't have to do an animation for is just going to allow for so many cool interactions with the skill tree. And obviously that goes against playing unarmed, because if you're unarmed, I don't believe you can take advantage of that, but perhaps you can. Perhaps you can have a weapon swap as unarmed, because you do still have 2 weapon sets. So who knows? Either way, the weapons set tech is going to be insane this league. Do not sleep on how good weapon swapping is. A lot of people would have avoided it simply because of how annoying it was to have to do that long animation, take it out, and attack. With it being quick, people are going to come up with all kinds of insane tech this league. Now, one thing that people were doing last league that you could no longer do was that they were using Profane Ritual. And what you could do is have in your offhand a sacrifice setup. So you'd summon some minions, and then you'd sacrifice them, and you would gain power charges from your Profane Ritual. You'd be able to do that. You'd be able to use it on your own minions, basically, which would give you power charges in single target. But one of the changes that they did make, if we come on in here, is that you can no longer use a few skills. Blink, Convalescence, and Sacrifice can no longer be activated in specific weapon sets. You have to be able to use the skills in both slots. You can't have like Quarterstaff and then a wand and an offhand in your other. So this particular setup will no longer work for getting power charges on single target, which is going to make that something to solve. Sure, I personally do like Combat Frenzy, but I know a lot of people love Profane Ritual. Obviously, in season 0.1, played a ton of Profane Ritual. Ended up settling on Combat Frenzy last league. Who knows what I'll go with this league? We'll have to wait and see where things fall. But that's it for that. Then we have another new keystone, which is going to be the Walker of the Wilds, and this means that Mana Leech recovers based on your elemental damage. Pretty cool change. You were dealing a decent amount of physical damage compared, like the split wasn't too bad, but this is going to make you recover a lot more mana, which is great because there is an Ascendancy node on Invoker Mug that not many people use, and I'd say the primary reason, other than it not dealing the most damage, is it just absolutely eats all of your mana. It's called Elemental Expression. It deals an amount of fire, cold, or lightning damage when you are on melee crit, basically. And it has a cooldown of 0.25 seconds. This can be scaled. And then, but what it did, it would eat through your mana over and over and over and over, and it was really annoying. But it's great on things like Flicker because you can obviously go around, you're bouncing all over the place, playing off all these effects. And now with something like this new Keystone, maybe this is enough to actually sustain Elemental Expression, and they gave Elemental Expression 40% more damage. So this could be a real deal in the next season. And this obviously will just help your mana in general anyway. I think you'll probably end up... I mean, you could already solve your mana with like 1 mana leech roll and just the physical damage you dealt. But so outside of that, it would be for these extreme cases. That being said, I didn't really use the +7 levels on my staff last time because it just made the mana too insane. So maybe now you could get away with using like +7 on your staff without having to use things like mana remnants, because they have actually reduced the amount that the mana scales with levels now. So beyond level 20, the amount of mana you have to use to cast your attack is much, much lower than it was previously. So we'll probably get away with using those now. They also give Meditate a lower cooldown, and it is much faster. You're going to recover that ES much faster. Meditate's already pretty good. A lot of people use this. Obviously, once Grim Feast got removed, this is one of the only ways to overfill your energy shield. You can get a ton from this. It's going to make you really, really durable. Literally doubles your EHP, right? So very, very strong. You just have to kind of like nip away, charge it up, and then get back in there. That's the only annoying thing about it. But given that they're addressing energy shield by trying to reduce the number of ways that you can recover it outside of simply recharging it, Meditate could be like kind of a sleeper pick for next league for sure. And then one thing I want to mention is Deadeye. So they made it so that marks are no longer spells, and that means that they cannot be triggered. Now, mark on hit, sorry, not mark on hit, cast on like freeze or cast on crit, anything with voltaic mark and other things would lead to like proliferations of Herald of Ice and voltaic mark, kind of akin to what you could do in 0.1 with Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. You can get these really big proliferations of explosions that would kill every mob on the screen. And it's really nice to obviously do that. Also, it just adds damage, shock, obviously getting frenzy charges from things like Sniper's Mark if you want to do it that way. Marking on here was very, very powerful, and they have removed the ability for you to automatically do it, except they added a new node to the Deadeye, and that is a new meta skill, and it is called Shots. And this will repeatedly try to mark nearby enemies. Now, this is obviously going to be great on something like Flicker Strike, because pretty much every enemy you're going to fight is going to be nearby because you're going to jump to them. And Deadeye already had some pretty decent synergies with trying to build up a Flicker Strike build anyway. 50% chance to gain additional Frenzy Charge is the new Avidity. This is a nerf compared to before. Previously, it was like a 30% chance to gain your max number of Frenzy Charges when gaining one. So this is a nerf. But the thing is, with Flicker Strike, you don't actually need to have the maximum amount every time you use it, simply because you're going to have such a high chance to not consume charges. And like, you normally run out of mobs before you run out of flickers anyway, that it's never that big of a deal. So Deadeye could be a pretty good shout for going Flicker Strike, even more so than before. It was already pretty good. Then of course you get Tailwind. You can also get this new node that says you gain 20 stacks, an enemy gains 20 stacks of critical weakness when you consume a mark on them. So Deadeye looks like a pretty decent shout for going some kind of Flicker Strike build, or even Falling Thunder. Of course, you're going to get Tailwind. You can get that reduced damage per Tailwind. But you'd probably go for these 3 plus Tailwind and not go for the 3% DR per that is behind it. If you don't know about converting frenzy charges to power charges, it's very simple. It's just this node right here, Resonance. Instead of gaining a frenzy charge, you will gain a power charge whenever you would gain one. That's why that works. One other thing that is important to mention about going Deadeye is that Rakiata's Flow is one of the new Lineage supports, and what it does is it causes hits with any supported skill to treat enemy monster elemental resistance as inverted. Now, I do believe you can only use one of this, so you would use it on obviously your spender skill, whatever that would be, probably Flicker Strike in this example. So that would obviously eliminate one of the really big reasons to play Invoker, because you can still get all of your spirit from your gear in general, and that way you can even more reason to go Deadeye, right? So Deadeye even more so effective when you start thinking of using Rakiata's Flow. Also, an important note on Meditate is they actually capped Overflow Energy Shield to 50% more, so it doesn't take you to double now. You recover it faster, but it can only overcap you by 50% more. So yeah, Invoker not looking as spicy as it was in the past. Obviously, still getting all your spirit for free makes gearing a lot easier. Invoker probably a great option still for League start, as it's going to make gearing out much easier. But if Rakiata's Flow is achievable and you can get it without forking out, a few mirrors, then Deadeye or maybe even Gemling or something like that could definitely end up being the play for Quarterstaff. So definitely some interesting things to think about with putting together what will be the Quarterstaff character I play next league. In terms of Ascendancy choice, maybe I could look into going Deadeye. This does, of course, what problems does this introduce would be like spirit cost, right? Invoker gets all its spirit things solved, just by going Lead Me Through Grace, especially when you're going to be stacking evasion and energy shield in your body armor anyway, if you want to go the unarmed route. So there's a lot of reasons, there's a lot of pros and cons for both, and that's something I'll look more into as we get more and more information. As of right now, I couldn't really say. Another passive tree change was, there's like, I think they said there's like 100 new clusters of notables on the tree. They haven't revealed pretty much any of them, but what we did see was one that grants like critical hit chance based on how much energy when you trigger a skill. Also, like, you get more energy if you've dealt a crit recently. That one's pretty good. But there's also a new defensive mechanic that has support on the tree, and that is called Deflect. One issue with an evasion build is there are a lot of things in this game where your defense is your spacebar. By what I mean by that is you have to manually dodge them. Your character can't evade them. You have to do it yourself. Now, this could add a bit of leeway into that. It's called Deflect, and how it works is you can gain up to 100% chance to take 40% less damage from any hit. That's insane. That's very, very good, depending on how available this is as a stat. You can get it on the tree, you can get it on gear, but the gear mods read that a percentage of your evasion rating is applied to deflection. So maybe hard to get up to that 100% chance, but if it's relatively easy, then you know, this is going to be like spell suppression in kind of a little way, where you're just going to get like basically 40% DR. AoE nodes got reduced by 25%. This obviously going to have a small effect on clear. Monk didn't have that many around here. Most of them are down. Authority, Crushing Judgment, stuff like that. There's even one for Heralds, I believe, here, Doomsayer, which were used. I don't know if what they said, this was in the gem section where they wrote this, so I don't know if it refers also to skill gems, stuff like Magnified Effect, Reach, all that kind of stuff. But if it does, then obviously clear is going to be hit even harder, especially since you also lost Voltaic Mark, triggering and proliferating all that damage. We've already gone over the mana cost. Other gem changes for us. We've already spoke about Blink. We've got the Killing Palm. Basically, all the unarmed skills now deal damage based on your equipped quarterstaff. So before, you would have like that flat damage you can see on the Hand of Jewel there. It's 139 to 258. It has a 9% crit chance. Now it's just going to scale on your actual staff. So it's going to deal more damage. Not sure how big of a deal that is. Couldn't really say. Frozen Lotus is going to be like probably even better for leveling. You would already use this for leveling, but it's going to probably be even better now. Yeah, Storm Wave also got an additional effect where it deals damage next to your character. So Storm Wave you would kind of hit in front of you. A lot of people love Storm Wave as a skill. I can see why. You just kind of fire it out in front of you and it deals a ton of damage. You can get all the Herald Devices going. But one problem it did have is if you were in the thick of it, you only hit in front of you. You hit this very narrow amount in front of you. Even if you had the additional projectiles, it would cause you to do more. Maybe on the sides, it would be a problem. So this addresses that in some small way, at least. Hopefully enough for it to feel a lot better to play. Then Blink, Coalescent, Sacrifice, we've been over this. You can no longer use them in weapon swaps. Infernal Cry nerf. So this was mainly for like bossing, but people definitely use this for mapping. What you could do is you could like snapshot an Infernal Cry buff for 100%, and that would basically work for the entire duration of a Flicker Strike, which was one button for more than double damage with the support gems on it. So they did nerf that, and instead of being essentially what was double damage, it's now like 14 up to 49% damage as extra, which is a significant reduction in power because damage as extra is the same bucket as all your other damage as extra, of which you will have some, whether it's from support gems, the Monk Ascendancy, or maybe even later on, you've got something like a Against the Darkness Time Lost Diamond. It gives you a ton. So there are definitely a significant nerf to that particular gem. Not a huge nerf to any kind of build that utilizes Flicker Strike or Falling Thunder or whatever. It's not the end of the world there at all. And then one thing they wanted to do that I thought I'd mention was they want to buff the physical skills for Monk. I will say this is still missing something, but from what I've seen here. It's definitely still missing something. I think that there is enough support in the game surrounding this for it to probably be a build that you'll see next season, but it's still missing it. There's still a row of skills in the Monk class, the Quarterstaff's class, that it's missing it. It's missing like that last, you know, on the last one you've got Flicker Strike, Gathering Storm. Where's the other one? It still feels like it's missing something. But what they did do, I will go into that. They made it easier to daze targets with Wind Blast. It now will daze on hit, and it will cause daze buildup. And then when you hit a mob with your Vaulting Impact, which is kind of like the mini jump, it will apply a debuff that, well, it escalates any daze the mobs have to like a super daze, can't remember what it's called, that causes any hit, any subsequent hit, to deal a percentage of your Vaulting Impact damage on each hit. You hit for a large amount, it is a large amount, it's up to 500% additional attack damage, up to 500% attack damage, and it will deal a portion of that on every subsequent hit until the debuff expires, right? And you can cram a lot of damage into one interval as Monk by using things like Temper Spell, and I assume with this they would want you to use, I can't remember the name of this skill. Let me see if I can find it. Is it called like Whirling Slash? Yeah, Whirling Slash it's called. You kind of do a big like cyclone and fly forward. It does a ton of hits in one go. That's probably what they expect you to do, especially if you've got your Staggering Palm, get your additional projectiles, then you can have, I don't know, Elemental Expression, as long as you're dealing some elemental damage. Does that work? Yeah. There's probably something there, but it sounds all a bit too much, right? It sounds like a bit too much to put together for not that much of an upside for something you could just press Flicker Strike or press Falling Thunder for. I still feel like this Art Tiger is missing something, but I'll definitely look into it. And then some of the biggest nerfs to items that affect us would be the reduction of critical damage bonus effectiveness. So this is a more multiplier on a weapon, and it was up to 39% as a suffix modifier. That's gone down to 25%, so instead of a 1.4 multiplier, you go down to a 1.25, which is the equivalent of about a 7 or 8% damage nerf. And then you also lose some on the soul cores, but you of course have the other runes, so I wouldn't say that's too much of a problem. But then they did also nerf iron runes, so that you'll get less evasion and energy shield, and that is a big deal for us because you'll know, if you've listened to me gabber on all this whole time, we have a lot of incentive to have very high amounts of evasion rate and energy shield on our armor pieces, so this is going to reduce that significantly. Well, not significantly, but it's going to reduce it a fairly decent amount. But they also did add higher quality bases, so you'll be able to get those back. I can't remember what they're called exactly, but you can get up to like 30% quality bases. And there's a new omen that like allows you to divine an item to go up to 120% of the modifier value. So the amount you can actually get in the end game is well, I mean, it's going to be like